We got a little spinning circle, so that means we're back with another money move. So today we're going to be talking about decoding debt. Is it really all bad? And before we get started, though, I want to say, hey, Wendy, how are you? Welcome back to another Money Moves.
Yes, welcome. Doing good in this snowstorm.
I know, right? We had snowmageddon blowing yesterday here in Chattanooga in Tennessee, all across Tennessee. Actually, Nashville got it
Mhm.
worse than Chattanooga did. But it's all
Yeah,
good, winter fun. But I tell you what, Christmas is over, so is New Year's, so I am ready for spring. But
same.
it is what it is. But we're going to talk today about debt. A lot of the gurus out there, say, "Oh man, all debt's bad. Debt is evil." And the question is, maybe, maybe not, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Really, kind of decoding your debt and what it looks like and what you should be focused on. So do us a favor, get us a little love down there, click that like button, and then we're going to get started here in just a few seconds. So let's talk about debt.
Yeah.
That should be a song. Let's talk about it. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. Actually, I do. I have my opinion. We're going to talk about it today. And I know Wendy does too. So let's talk about it, Wendy. What do you think? I mean, let's talk about, before we jump in, I guess, let's talk about the different kinds of debt that there are out
All
there,
right.
because there's a lot.
Sounds good.
There's a lot,
Yeah.
right? So you've got cars, credit cards, you've got loans, you've got the 12 months, 18 months, same as cash, which can be a loan or a credit card.
Right.
You got your home loans, your HELOCs, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Student
But
loans.
I know I saw an article the other day. Biden released another $12,000 loan, which his last one got quashed, saying it was illegal. So I don't know what this one, how he's going to do this one. I think it's something just before election time. Presidents, both sides of always try to do that. Hey, look what I'm doing, right? But that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But looking at the debt, I mean, it really breaks down into two types of debt, right? You've got your revolving, right? Which are your credit cards. Those are your scorecards, things like that. Your, major Visas, MasterCard, American Express, Discover. I don't think Diners Club's still out there anymore, but those are your major credit cards. And you've got all your store cards, which is, your Macy's, your Kohl's. Yeah, that's a big one, right? Your gas credit card. What's that?
I feel like when you walk, you can't check out at Kohl's without them pushing that credit card. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, they're really good about it. But I tell you what, that's a whole other. So we should do a show on stores with the deals, because they're always pushing the deals.
Yeah.
But I love Kohl's. But looking at that, that's the revolving stuff. Then you've got your installment loans, which those are the loans, right? The home equity line of credit, your mortgage. That's an installment loan, meaning you're making the same monthly installment typically every time. HELOCs can vary, right? That's kind of a hybrid. But those are the installment loans, your car note.
And they have an end date.
Yeah, they have an end date. Whereas revolving, it's like the revolving door. I don't know if I'm sure you've seen the movie Elf, right? Where he's running around. That's what revolving credit is. You're just like running around in a circle like a revolving door. Debt goes in, debt goes out. Debt goes in, debt goes out. Whereas an installment loan, it's kind of just you have that end date, right?
Yeah.
And you look at the different types of installment loans. Some are secured, some are unsecured, right? And I don't know, I'm sure you've had both, right? An installment loan that would be secured would be like your car loan. Okay, you've got an end date, and it's going to have, they're using the car as collateral, which means if you don't pay that installment, they're going to come take your car.
The repo man comes. Yeah.
I love watching those TikTok videos. Those guys are like beasts, man. And there was a movie with Emilio Estevez back in the 80s called Repo Man. If you haven't seen it, it's a cult classic. Highly recommended. Great movie. But yeah, they'll get in there and take that car. Same thing with the house. That's a secured installment loan. But you can also have secured revolving debt, secured credit cards.
Mhm.
And so, those are situations where maybe you're trying to establish credit, or you've had bad credit due to bankruptcy or something like that. So you're trying to rebuild credit. Um,
Mhm.
they'll actually, $250, $500, you give that to the bank and
Yep.
they'll send you a secured card against that $500, meaning as long as
Mhm.
you pay it, you're building your credit, and then all of a sudden, hey, here's your $500 back, or you close that card and go open another card or whatever, get your money back. But that's a great way to help it. So, there's all kinds of different credit cards out there. It's not just
Yep.
one type and this is it. And there's all types of different loans and credit. But the question is, really, what does yours look like? And is it all bad? I mean,
Mhm.
Dave and Susie out there, all credit is bad, which I think is
Yeah.
some of the worst advice ever, because we
Yeah.
live in a credit society, right?
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Wendy?
Yeah, I mean, so I kind of was always of the mindset that all credit was bad, and the word of God says, "Do not be a slave to the lender," and things like that. But then I think there's also wisdom that comes when you're using debt to build wealth and to build assets. And
Leverage.
so
Yep.
you and I talk about, we're both big fans of Robert Kiyosaki. That was one of the first personal development books I read that really changed my life.
Yeah.
But one of his Rich Dad Poor Dad. But yeah, and he is like, use debt as much as you can to build wealth.
Yeah.
And so when you understand it, I think it's depends on where you are in your mindset and in your heart, and in the way you're able, like, are you responsible with money or not? If you're
Yeah.
not, then you probably don't need debt, period. Right?
Well, and I
But
think
it's
that, yeah, I agree. I think that's where they come from, is that mindset of, well,
yeah,
people don't know what
yeah,
they're not disciplined. They're not going to do it right. So let's just tell them all that's bad. And you're right. It is biblical. I mean, but so is a lot of other things that people do. But,
mhm,
today's society, we live in a credit world.
mhm,
And, it's the days of you walking into the local bank and, walking up to the banker and saying, hey, I need a loan. And we play golf together. We go to church together, whatever the case may be. And them saying, it's a wonderful life. Right.
mhm.
And I forget, what's the name, the main guy's name? What was his?
In the movie, I can't remember.
Yeah. So it was the main guy, right?
The
He
main
knew
guy.
everybody. Oh, your money's in such and such's house, and this.
Yeah,
Those days are over, right? It's
yeah,
all national banks, or at least regional
yeah,
banks, and the only way they have to know you is through your credit score.
right.
And so if you don't have a good credit score, which that's going to be north of 720 is a great credit score. If you're above 620, you're good, you're average, and below that, you need to be working on it. We've talked about some great tools to do that. Not going to talk about that today, but
Mhm,
um, that's the only way they know you. But again, it goes back to what you were talking about. You've got to have that
mhm.
discipline. You've got to
Right.
understand how it works. This is the money in America is all a big game, guys. It's all a big game, but you've got to know the rules. Don't cheat. Know the rules and know how to play it well. And that's what we're trying to teach you here on Black Swan Money Channel, right? And Money Moves. But looking at the different kinds of debt, my personal preference is revolving is going to give you a lot more flexibility to leverage, right? And there's good debt and bad debt. When I say bad debt, what I'm saying are things like using a credit card to go out party with your friends, or buy stuff that you don't really need. Hey, pay for
Right.
trips and things like that. We do a lot of financial planning, and I've had direct conversations with clients of, you're not putting any money away for your future or building wealth, but I see you've got
Mhm.
a boat. I see you're taking 2 or 3 major world trips every year, and
Yep.
you're racking it up on your credit card, yet you don't even have an emergency fund. So everything's on the line. You lose your
Right.
job or income stream, and it's all going to come tumbling down like a house of cards. That's bad debt,
Right.
right? That's bad debt.
Yep.
But good debt, using that very same credit card and doing work on a rental property that you're rehabbing, using it for
Mhm.
that, paying it off when you doing the construction loan or whatever, and turn around paying it off. Then all of a sudden that same credit card, because you leverage it to do what? To
Right.
increase your assets, which we're going to talk about here in a second. That same credit card that's good debt.
Mhm.
And so to holistically say that all debt is bad, I think is way too general. And I think it sells the intelligence of Main Street America, a lot of people in Main Street America are short, right?
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
I think the key of what you said there is use the word leverage. I think when there's a difference between debt and leverage, we call it all debt, right? But to build wealth, you have to understand leverage, leveraging of time, leveraging of money, leveraging of people, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I think good debt in a nutshell is leveraging other people's money, whether it be the banks or investors or whoever, in order to increase assets, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's one of the big factors you look at good debt and bad debt, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, being able to leverage. I mean, I saw an article today that you know, home ownership is no longer the American dream because the middle class can't afford a home. And I looked at that and I'm like, that's kind of a broad statement to make. And it's a doom and gloom statement to make. So I went in with my phone and took a little calculator and said, okay, based on buying, you know, a $200,000 house, yeah, you can afford it. And that's, you know, that's usually dual incomes.
Mm-hmm.
You can definitely afford a house. So I'm like, where are they coming up with this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And they're using worst case scenarios and things like that, but doom and gloom sells and it gets everybody frustrated and things like that. But, you know, again, using your money, managing your money wisely, that includes debt as well. I mean, buying a house, for example, is the biggest purchase most people will make. Okay. And you're not going to go and drop $200,000, $300,000 on a house. Just, oh yeah, I got that money saved up. Now a down payment. Yeah. And ideally you want to go and do, you know, a 20% down payment. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can do that, which is why, you know, you've got FHA loans, 3%. You've got VA loans, which is 0% down if you served in the military. So, you know, looking at that, why am I okay with that debt as opposed to $100,000, $200,000 student loan?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, that good debt, right? Buying the asset, what's going to happen? Well, the house is going to appreciate, take care of it, things like that. And, you know, even using steady Eddie appreciation of 3, 4, 5%, not the craziness you've seen over the last few years or California traditional, that asset is going to continue to do what? Create more money for you that holds that debt. When I was buying rental properties and things like that, I was buying single family properties. I had over $2 million in debt. That was like, whoa, I owe $2 million. But it wasn't like I owed $2 million on a boat that I bought, right? Or something like that. It was appreciating assets and I was managing it and things like that. We had rents offsetting the cost. We had built in, you know, deferred maintenance and everything else. So it was being run like a business. You can do that in your personal. So that debt is great debt.
Yeah.
Using those credit cards to build, you know, to do the rehab and things like that, great debt. But when you change that and most people are out there living a lifestyle they can't afford, robbing Peter to pay Paul, that's where you start getting into trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, it comes down to balance too. Like, I think balance and discipline. It's wild how many people we walk through and do, you know, plans for that, like you said, have the big consumer debt, but aren't saving, right?
Yeah.
Or and where you see people with the most long term and the most wealth, I think, you know, wealth comes in assets, not in money, really.
No.
And so those people that are able to buy companies and buy properties and invest in real estate and invest in their future, I mean, that's where the true wealth comes in. And if you leverage debt to make that happen, I think that's wise. So,
well, and I agree. I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, Robert Kiyosaki, I saw a thing on TikTok on him. It was an interview and he was talking about it. And I agree 100%. I mean, you know, poor people are, and I'm not saying poor like you're below the poverty level. I'm talking a poor mindset. Okay. When I say poor, that's what I mean. So you can be making great money. You can be making 6 figures and still be poor. Right. And those of you that are watching this, you understand exactly what I'm talking about because when do I get my next paycheck? Right. You're living from paycheck to paycheck. You're poor. So I don't care if you're making 6 figures. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're poor. You've got a poor mindset. And the whole problem with that is when you have a poor mindset, you're working for money. You're working for things, right? Oh man, I want to get a nice car, a new car. You know, my car's already got 30,000 miles on it. It's 2 years old. I need a new car or whatever. That's a poor mindset. A wealthy mindset is, you know, I'm building assets. Okay. I'm building net worth. And if you don't understand what net worth is, That's the key. You need to understand what it is and then become disciplined in your money and your debt, and look at debt is no different than a tool out in my shed. If I need to dig a hole, I can do it with my hands, or I could leverage the shovel that I have out there to dig the hole faster, better, and better use of my time. That's the same thing you use debt for. I can use debt or leverage debt to build assets faster and more efficiently by leveraging other people. And it's the same thing you do when you buy a home and finance it. Now, that asset, to be considered, in my opinion, a real asset, has to either be appreciating, meaning getting more valuable every year, or making you money. Okay. So like a business, or, you can buy an asset like a truck or something like that. If it's making you money, you're renting it out or using it for Uber or income, stuff like that. That might be considered an asset. Just to go out and buy a car that you're going to use for your personal use to get you to work or whatever, that is not an asset. Why? Because the minute you drive that car off the lot, it's worth about 10 to 20% less than it was when you put the key in the ignition 5 minutes ago. Okay, so that's a depreciating asset. A lot of people get upside down on these things. So it's really kind of critical that you understand what debt is, but not only that, you've got to understand what a real asset is and what your net worth is. Those are kind of the three components. So
and I think the last thing, just for people that understand your own debt, like, what do you have right now going on? And no, I mean, I have a little bit of debt left. I've paid off all my credit cards. I have a couple loans left. And for me, like, I want to know what my minimum payment is, what my interest rate is, what's the balance that I owe, all those things. And, what's my anticipated payoff time. So I've created, we teach people the debt snowball or avalanche, but have a plan for your debt, for that bad debt to be gone. My biggest motivator to get rid of the crap debt that I have is because I want to be able to leverage for the assets. And so I'm in the process of making that shift. And so, but you've got to know, I mean, we do financial plans all the time with people, and some people are like, yep, here's what I have. And other people are like, oh, I think I might have a credit card here and there.
That's most people. And that's the thing. That's just, you don't have control about your money. You're not being intentional about your money. And if you're not intentional about your money through a spending plan, knowing what your debts are, knowing what's coming in income wise, you're never going to build wealth. You're just going to float around and hope it all works out. And you're pretending that you're happy because you're out on your boat or whatever. And I'm not knocking people with boats, but it does stand for bust out another 1,000. Just going to say that. Join a boat club. There you go. Join a boat club. You pay a monthly fee. Somebody else has all the headache and stuff like that. But going back to what we were talking about, it's using debt, it can be a good and positive experience, but you've got to understand, what are you using it for? And are you in control of the money, or is the debt in control of you? And even if you do, the example I gave was leveraging a credit card to put, do improvements on a property you're rehabbing. That doesn't necessarily mean you want to carry that balance for very long. Okay. Because that interest rate you pay on those credit cards or those loans, what that's doing is robbing you of your revenue. It's robbing you of your revenue. I don't care if you can afford the monthly payment. I can afford the monthly payment. I understand that. But you still want to get out from under that as soon as possible. Because if a credit card, for example, those are amortized typically around 10 to 20 years. I use an average of 15, right? Meaning that you make those minimum payments, it's going to pay out X. You've got to look at what's called the TOP, or total of payments, whenever you finance anything. I got my new car for $35,000. My monthly payment is only $550 for 84 months.
Yeah.
Multiply that out. That's really what you paid for that car. Okay. Now the motor company, whether it's GM, Ford, or whatever, they didn't get that profit, right? They probably got a little kickback from the bank, but the bank's the one that's going to make that big profit. So that's what you've got to take into account too, is the total of payments, not just the balance you owe.
When you buy a car, they don't even tell you they don't even tell you the total of what you're paying.
No. What do you want your payment to be? All right, well, we're going to finance this for 28 years. So in Japan, they do 40 and 50-year mortgages too. In 2008, before the whole housing bubble, U.S. started to see those 40-year mortgages too. And think about that for a minute. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen, because that's honestly why I think they're pushing this. Oh, we can't afford houses. We can't afford houses anymore. So what are we going to do? Let's stretch it out to 40 or 50 years. So now you're going to have what I call the heirloom mortgage, where your kids get to inherit the mortgage as well. Yeah. Mark my words on that one. You'll start to see those within the next decade. But, again, it's being in control and knowing and understanding this. I'm going to go back to this. This is all a big game. Okay. It's all a big game, and you got to treat it as such, and you play to win, right? You got to understand what the rules are. Why do they don't have to pay as much taxes as I do? Why does he get his monthly subscription for X and I have to pay, 2 times that or something like that? And we'll talk about some of the things that I use and some of the simple phrases that I use in another episode that can save you a bunch of money too. But going back to debt, you need to understand what your debt is, what it's all about. You need to understand that there is such a thing as good debt, and be okay with that. But it comes with discipline and knowing what you're trying to accomplish. And that goal should be to build net worth, net wealth. Okay. And that's all I've got, Winnie. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to close this out.
Oh, that's good. Good
all
stuff.
Right. Good deal. Do us a favor. Give us a little love down there. Click the share button, share it with a friend or two. And then don't forget to subscribe. You want to catch all of our back episodes. We're at episode 130. But if you want to catch all of our back episodes, a lot of great information that can help you and your family and your business, go to blackswanmoney.com, and click that little subscribe button, and you'll have access to all of our videos completely free. So if you do need some help, need some guidance, don't be afraid to reach out to us, and we'll set you up on a roadmap for your financial journey to build wealth for you and your family, not only for you, but for generations to come. So everybody have a great day, and we'll talk to you next week.